welcome to the Feature Spotlight webinar for February 2025. Don't have a lot to show you today, although I do have some, but we do have a fair amount to talk about. So let's get to it. If I can figure out how to share my screen, we can go ahead and begin. So this month, we are going to talk about three things. We're going to talk about the version 6.1.300 beta program, which is basically starting today. We're going to talk about the new feature that we have added to the product, the collaborative documents authoring using what is now called Microsoft 365. Gotta love Microsoft just deciding to change the names of things willy-nilly. And we'll talk about some extra bug fixes that we've covered over the past month. Let's start off with the 6.1.300 beta test. 6.1 was a big leap. There was an entirely new UI to replace the UI that we've had in the product. In one form or another, the tabbed-based UI has been in the product since, well, all the way back in version 1. It kind of reached its modern form in version 3. And then in 4.5, we sort of modernized it, took out some of the skeuomorphic design elements and flattened it. And all of those were big, but it was essentially the same UI reskinned. 6.1 was an entirely new UI and a new architecture in terms of displaying items to you using React and some other tools. It was a big jump in the product. It was a fundamental change to the UI. It eliminated, for the most part, not at the object level, but at the main UI level, it eliminated the tabbed interface. That was probably too big of a jump to make without a lot more beta testing than we did. We did beta testing for 6.0, and then for 6.1, it could have used a good beta test, and we didn't do it. And as a result, there were some quality issues. We recognize just as much as you do that there were some quality issues associated with that release. And so 6.1.300 is also a big leap, although for a different reason. It's a big leap because it has one big feature, the ability to use Microsoft 365. So the normal Microsoft, I don't even know if they call it Microsoft Office anymore. And you have no idea how much documentation change I had to make after I'd already written it when Microsoft decided to change Office 365 or O365 to Microsoft 365. I guess they're still calling it Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, but we're able to use those M365 applications with CDA now. Now, prior to that, we could only use the Only Office service, which is an independent third-party service, which provided a very Microsoft-like editing experience online, but it wasn't Microsoft. And there have been some concerns from some customers about going to a third-party service like Only Office and editing documents there, because you are, of course, whatever happens, whatever the contents of those documents are, you are sharing them, at least temporarily, with Only Office. And so we received several requests to change that, or at least to allow the option, rather than using a third-party service, to use the organization's Azure O365, as it was known at the time, and Office applications in their own cloud in Azure to be able to do document editing. That way, for editing proprietary documents collaboratively, they could keep them inside their own Azure installation. I mean, I guess you're still sharing them with Microsoft, but apparently more people are willing to share stuff with Microsoft than with somebody else. So we implemented it. It is a big lift because making Process Director work with your Office 365 installation is a highly technical and highly complex process. In fact, we're still not done. There are still some outstanding issues for making it work seamlessly with O365. But while it is complex and while it is difficult, CDA is a separately licensed component. Most of you don't have it. And so for the most part, while it was a huge effort to implement M365 CDA in the product, it's simply not going to affect most of you because you don't have that component. And so for the most part, you're not even going to see evidence that that is possible. You will see evidence about which more in due course. The other issue, though, that we really needed to address were there's no way to say it other than to be honest about it, the excessive number of bugs that were associated with version 6.1.0. So there are many bugs to address in 6.1.300. So with the number of bugs that needed to be fixed and that need to be tested and that need to work with your existing installation and with the new feature, we decided to implement a full-on beta test for 6.1.300. So we're going to handle it differently with this full-on beta test. We've done some different things internally at BP Logix. The engineering team has now been split into a maintenance and features team. The maintenance team works on the product itself in ensuring that bugs are fixed, that any sort of customer complaints are addressed. So there's an entire team now on the engineering side that is entirely devoted to basically product maintenance, bugs, quality of life issues. Then there is a features group, and the features group works on any new issues. So there is obviously some interoperability between those teams because as we add new issues, obviously the maintenance team wants to ensure that they don't have bugs that crop up in that. Another thing that we've done, and I forgot to mention it when I was writing this yesterday, but one of the other things we've done is we have vastly increased the internal QA process and just the number of different testing iterations that we implement on the product. So that there is a lot of alpha testing that goes on internally with the product anytime before we make a release. And we're ramping up that internal QA process for testing. And over the past couple of months, we've ramped it up quite substantially to help ensure that we catch these bugs before they ever go out the door. Thirdly, for this release especially, we have created an internal working group of which I am a part for quality of the product and for looking at things and ensuring that the product is working the way that it's supposed to, and for shepherding through releases in a more quality-focused way. As part of this, we've gone through and identified all of the releases issues. There were a total of 192 issues that had to be identified and resolved. Now, a lot of these issues were all part of the Office 365 deal, or I'm sorry, Microsoft 365 CDA deal. And so that's a good portion of those. In fact, there's probably about 40 or 50 of them that are solely O365 CDA issues. And there's like one release note that covers all of those issues. Release notes. We'll talk about that in a sec too. As part of our beta program, we have asked for some volunteers. We've gotten some. We've selected out the organizational customers who are going to participate in a beta test of 6.1.300. Some of them are going to be participating on their own existing internal dev servers. So they're going to install the beta on their dev systems and work on it there. Others have decided they would prefer to work on a beta-only installation. So we have copied their dev servers to an entirely new Process Director installation that is solely for beta testing, and they'll be working there. But either way, all of the customers who are participating in the beta test will have a version of 6.1.300 installed, and they'll be able to perform the testing running through their processes and their applications to be sure that 6.1.300 works well for them. Another thing that we've done for the very first time is come up with a communications strategy. I was about to say we came up with a new communication strategy, but I think it would be more fair to say that we actually came up with a communication strategy, and we're trying something new for this beta release. For now, it is only for the beta customers, but note the term "for now." We may be doing some interesting things here, but what we have done is, first of all, we have created a Discord server so that our people, although when I say our people, a lot of our people are going to be me, can communicate directly with the beta customers on a Discord server. And so we have set up a Discord server, and we've integrated it with our own internal Slack messaging system. We had a lot of discussion about what's the best way to talk to customers. Now, we have a couple of different avenues. There is the community message board on the support site. It's fine as far as it goes, but the membership is limited because we limit the number of support representatives that any organization has, generally to 2, and that does not include the entire universe of people that they might have working, implementing, doing other things on their Process Director installations. That board really only includes the direct tech support contacts. We wanted to open up that to a much wider group of participants, which is to say anyone who is working on Process Director in the organization, certainly during the beta, so that we get as wide a universe of customers to talk to as well. We could have gone to some other sort of different private forum board or what have you, but there are a lot of advantages to Discord for this kind of stuff. There are a lot of software companies that use Discord as part of their customer communication strategy. So for now, we've opened up Discord for the beta customers. Some of you have already gotten your Discord invites. Others of you will receive them today, and indeed may have received them in the last couple of minutes from Andrew Kelly. And so once you get that Discord invite, you will go to the BP Logix Discord server, where you will be allowed to see the new members and only the new members chat channel or text channel in Discord. I, of course, will, or Andrew will put you in the appropriate role as a beta tester. If you're not a beta tester, the people who have an invite will get added as beta testers. And once you do, you will have access to these channels as well as these, but the important thing are these beta channels. There is a beta talk channel, which is just to have general discussions about the beta, maybe about installation, maybe about configuration settings, whatever. There's also a features channel. So if you want to discuss features you'd like to see added or changed, you can add it there. There is a BPL only channel that only BPL people have access to, so that we can have our some private conversations about things that come up. And most importantly, there is a beta bugs channel. And that beta bugs channel is hooked directly into our internal Slack communications. We're using Zapier to do some workflows. So anytime that you post anything in beta bugs, it will automatically get posted in Slack at BP Logix to an internal channel there. Also, anytime anyone replies in that internal channel in Slack, it will automatically replicate that comment back over to Discord. So our people can have conversations with you, whether directly in Discord or indirectly via Slack internally, with those messages being sent back to the Beta Bugs channel. So obviously this is not a private channel that is only available in Discord. It will go into our internal communications in Slack as well. And we're doing this to try to ensure that we have a very good open line of communication to as many people as possible. So if you're taking part in the beta, you'll receive an email, or should have already received an email. And I'm going to say should have already, because I see somebody new has popped up in new members. We're not going to go look and see who it is during the webinar, but somebody has already gotten their Discord invite, and they're starting to come in now and join the Discord. So just because you're the one that received the email does not necessarily mean that you're the only person who should join the Discord. Feel free to distribute that Discord invite to anyone who is in your organization who will be participating in the beta test, so we can get as many people in your organization as you feel you want to participate and to be able to speak with us directly via our Discord. I do just want to point out one thing. Notice there is a customer forum here, and you may note, those of you who have played around in the customer forum, that it has exactly the same channels as exist in the customer forum on Zendesk. There's a reason for this. We are going to test out, we're using this beta also to test out Discord for a larger, wider communication strategy with our customers, one of which would be to have a forum that ultimately we have the ability to grant some of you the ability to administer the Discord, and it can be much more of a user community Discord rather than some sort of one-way BP Logix to you communications channel. So we're having a lot of discussion about customer communications that go far beyond the beta. And I've already built, since I am the Discord administrator here, I've built this Discord, and I'm already putting in the infrastructure for a more wide open customer communication strategy. Right now we're testing it with the beta, and we'll see how that goes. And that may be something that we expand to everyone in the future as a better means of communication outside of our existing more regulated channels with BP Logix. The other thing that we have for 6.1.300 beta is a set of release notes. It's a fairly extensive set of release notes. It is, it's 7 pages long. There's a lot of release notes. The first 2 pages are some of the enhancements that we have added to the product, including, of course, the collaborative document authoring one, which, as you can see, is a much more extensive release note with a lot of related tickets. And then we have a lot of bug fixes. And there are a ton of bug fixes in this one. Some very simple, some complex, some for custom tasks, some for the product itself. We're sending this out to all of the beta participants. However, if you would like a copy of the release notes for this beta, as you can see, I have it as a PDF file. I'm more than happy to send that to you, whether you're participating in the beta or not. Obviously, whenever we release 6.1.300 formally, then we will publish the full release notes for the that finished version on the support website as we always do. So one of the things that we're trying to do with this communication strategy is ensure that we can go through this process of making iterative changes in the beta and giving you new installations of the beta as issues arise. And hopefully this beta will go quite well. So let's talk briefly about Microsoft 365 and collaborative document authoring. As I said, it is the big feature in this release. By default, only Office for anyone who currently has CDA, only Office is still going to be the default option. And it may be the option that you want to keep because the setup for this thing is super complex and it requires a lot of work in Azure and in Process Director to make this work, although the vast majority of the work is done in Azure. Now, I have documentation on M65 CDA, and it's already been added to the documentation. So if you go to doc.bplogix.com and you go to administration, there is an Azure and Process Director topic. And when you go there, we have the existing stuff, SharePoint data sources, SMTP OAuth, and there's a new section for O365 CDA. And there are many, many things that you have to do to make this work. In fact, if we scroll back up from this CDA page, there's the configuring SAML configuration, registering the full scope app in Azure, registering the site level app in Azure, site permissions, site settings, and then finally Process Director settings that you might have to make. So there is quite a lot that has to be done. As you can see here, most of this has to be done in Intra, setting up SAML single sign-on and things like that. There's a full scope app that you have to create in Intra as well. I know all these screenshots look very similar, but that's because they're all in Azure. Similarly, we have to create an Azure site, which it's all kind of technical. And you have to be able to get that site stuff to us because there are some changes that we have to make in Process Director. There are also some changes to the Process Director UI that you will notice, most notably on the inside the IT admin area on the properties page of installation settings. Down at the very bottom of the page, there is now a bunch of Microsoft 365 SharePoint stuff. Now, by the way, SharePoint is what is used to store the documents for the M365 CDA. So you've got to have the SharePoint set up. You've got to have all these site registrations. It's really complex to set up, and you're going to have to know Azure. We have documentation, as I just showed you. We're going to try to walk you through how to create that and what settings you need to set. But I suspect if you aren't familiar with your Azure installation, then it's going to be a little bit confusing to you. So this is probably one of those areas where if you're more focused on Process Director than general IT duties, you're probably going to have to bring in your IT staff to assist you with setting that up, should you want to use M365 CDA. But this is a very important feature, especially for those of our customers who are in regulated industries. Either, we have some defense contractor customers who would want this. Certainly customers who work in life sciences want this. They want to be able to maintain a much greater degree of control over their proprietary documentation, and using M365 for CDA is their best option for that. So there's some UI changes just on that installation settings page, but you can't even make those UI changes until you go through the 7 different topics that we have in our documentation of how to set up Azure. Of course, CDA is, as I mentioned before, a separately licensed component. So if you don't have that component, this is not a feature that will be big for you, but trust me, for some customers, it is a super big feature that they really want. Let's discuss some of the bug fixes that we have handled in the last month since our last meeting. Firefox is weird. I don't know why anybody still uses Firefox. And believe me, I used to be the biggest Firefox fanboy you can imagine. But Firefox has not fared well over the past couple of years. So it has diverged from other browsers in the way that it displays things. So we did find, especially with the display of the content list, and an issue with how it gets displayed in Firefox. You know, there was a time when everything kind of sort of went from having, you know, Netscape Navigator and Internet Explorer and what was the other one? Well, I guess it would have been Firefox at the time. There were three different browsers on Chrome. Yeah, that was the other one, Chrome and Safari. So four different, and you had to do all kinds of, you had to jump through all kinds of different hoops because every different browser did things differently. There's been a lot of convergence since then. And at one point, everybody was just designing for Internet Explorer because that was just what everybody was using now. And there was good and bad to that. Certainly in terms of being able to make things show up in multiple browsers, it was great because nobody was using multiple browsers. But now we're back to multiple browsers, and so occasionally these very browser-specific issues will still pop up. A couple of things we fixed with the data list, one of which is on mobile only, where when you tried to scroll the data list, it would scroll the entire page, which not super useful on a phone. So we had to be able to be sure that on mobile devices, the scrolling for the data list was separate from the page scrolling and could be discriminated on mobile. There were some export issues with the process. There's a button whenever it's running as a on a form instance to export to CSV, or I think export to CSV is the default one. With the export to CSV, it was not doing the export properly. I think there was an export to Excel issue as well. So we had to fix several export issues or export issues with exporting the data out of a data list into a CSV or Excel file. And we also added a new feature. So it's here in bug fixes, but it's actually a new feature. We added a line wrapping feature into the data list control. So if you have a data list control, so let me go grab the data list form real quick. I don't think it matters which one I grab. Maybe I should do that so that it narrows it down to just the data list form that I want. On the data list form, there is a change to the properties dialog for data list controls. And it's here on the columns tab. There is now a wrap text property. Now, prior to this, if you had a data list control that had a column that had a lot of data in it, all the data in that column would be truncated after a certain length, and it would only show up on, you know, a single line in the data list control. With the wrap text, which by the way is the default setting for each column, with the wrap text control, that text can now wrap inside the data list control, and we can see the entire contents of that, what would be presumably a long text field, so that you could see it and read it all inside the data list control. And if you wanted to, you could still just uncheck that property and you could go ahead and truncate the data in that column so that it only showed you the one line the way that it does in everything prior to 6.1.300. But 6.1.300 will have this new feature with this wrap text property to enable you to show long text inside a data list control. A couple of other bugs, business value imports. If I had a business value that used HTTP headers and it was running fine, then I go over to dev, I remove the HTTP headers, perhaps because I don't need them anymore. And I would export that updated business value to production. It would not remove the HTTP headers. So we had to fix the import so that it compared to see whether we had those HTTP headers in the import file and if we didn't remove them. Some caching changes to enable you, whenever you edit a script and upload it, to instantly apply the changes you've made in that script there were some caching issues going on. So when you uploaded a script, it wouldn't really take effect until the cache expired. That caching really shouldn't have been applied to script definitions. So we've removed it so that script updates now take place immediately. QR codes work again. That's one of those weird ones where there is a third-party library that makes the QR codes work, and it goes obsolete faster than we would like, and it went obsolete again. We now have the new library, so the QR codes are now fixed. Most of you don't care about Oracle Database because you don't use it, but there's always Oracle DB stuff that goes a little wonky because Oracle itself is a little wonky, so we fixed that. Overall, for 6.1.300 beta, there are 87 different bug fixes that we have implemented in the product. So part of our beta program, of course, is to test those bug fixes and to be sure that they work as expected. And that is all that I have to share for you today. And I've used up all of my time for today. So have a great month. For those of you who enjoy the training webinar, I'll see you on Thursday. For the rest of you, I'll see you next month. Until then, so long.